It is very common for us to come across the expression New World Order in various texts, videos, and websites. The central idea is that a New World government, totalitarian in nature, could be established. If I could leave you a message about this, I would say, do not let yourself be swayed by the feeling of fear. It is a very effective tool of manipulation. The French philosopher Luc Ferry was once questioned about this. He explained that when we are overcome by a phobia, these fears dominate us and we become foolish, malicious, and selfish. Ferry recalled that in Greek philosophy, we find this idea, particularly in Homer's Odyssey, that the wise person is the one who has conquered fears. Looking beyond Luc Ferry, we could even observe Gilgamesh, who found a certain form of immortality when he confronted his fears and embarked on the first hero's journey the world ever knew. According to Buddhism, we need to delve deep within ourselves and engage in profound reflection on our own lives. This deep dive into ourselves involves looking deeply at fear and understanding its nature. This teaches us how to deal with it. That includes looking deeply at our fear. Looking deeply shows us its nature and teaches us how to work with it. The tablet we are going to analyze is currently archived in the Louvre Museum. Unfortunately, I couldn't obtain a high-quality image of the mentioned text. What I could find is what you see on the screen. Debunkers of Zecharia Sitchin's theory have a clear and quick response, which can be immediately observed when the word Anunnaki appears anywhere. The translations Sitchin used are incorrect. Naturally, debunkers assert that the original Mesopotamian tablets do not support what Sitchin is presenting. On the other hand, Sitchin's staunch defenders, who are thorough passionate of his work, have another ready response. Zecharia Sitchin never translated anything. He relied on translations from other scholars. Between these two diametrically opposed ends, there exists common sense, neither discrediting an entire theory based on specific points of disagreement, nor becoming a fervent and fanatical advocate, thus being completely blind to any errors Sitchin may have made. Here on the Anunnaki Ancient Mystery Channel, the subject is treated with utmost seriousness. I am not here to tell you what to believe. I am here to offer you information, both on Zecharia Sitchin's theory and other topics related to the Anunnaki. In this video specifically, we will study an original Mesopotamian tablet, a very famous mythological text in ancient Mesopotamia, Enki and the World Order. It is from this text that Sitchin supports one of his conclusions regarding the arrival of the Anunnaki on planet Earth. It is from this text that Sitchin exposes that Enki, upon arriving on Earth, encountered flood. It is from this text that the conclusion arises that the Anunnaki divided the different regions of planet Earth upon arrival, engaging in various activities under Enki's command. The Sumerian myth, Enki and the World Order, spans about 472 lines and stands as a notably preserved piece of ancient literature. This mythological narrative splits into 4 distinct sections. Initially, it opens with a third-person accolade to Enki, covering lines from 1 to the 60. Following this, Enki engages in a dual self-laudatory speech. In the first segment of his self-praise, Enki reflects on how Enlil empowered him with the enigmatic Mes and Namtar. These elements are vital to Sumerian life and culture, embodying cultural norms and the authority to shape destinies. The second part of Enki's self-praise goes through the lines 86 to 139, sees him planning a voyage across Sumer on his barge. This journey is intended to implement the order and prosperity he's been tasked with establishing in Sumer. The narrative's central and most extensive portion details Enki's voyage through the land, where he proclaims the destinies of the Sumerian world. Initially, Enki's focus is on Sumer as a whole, particularly Ur, before expanding his journey to the adjacent regions of Magan, Meluha, and Dilmun. The latter part of his journey brings him back to the Sumerian heartland. Here, in a sequence of 12 cycles, Enki designates specific deities to oversee various aspects and regions within the Sumerian world order. Concluding this mythological composition, the narrative turns to a dialogue between Inanna and Enki. Inanna expresses her grievances to Enki, feeling overlooked in the allocation of functional powers and responsibilities. Enki addresses these concerns in the final lines of the text, from 387 to 471. In this type of video, when we examine the original Mesopotamian tablets, I would like you to keep the knowledge you have acquired regarding Sitchin's theory in a different corner of your mind. This way, you will be open to new possibilities, including archetypal and psychological aspects of the myths we will study, and not just to the narrative in question of the ancient aliens who came from Nibiru to Earth with the mission of mining gold. By this, I do not mean to say that Sitchin is wrong, nor that he is correct. I simply want you to maintain different possibilities of observation. In the future, I plan to analyze the archetypal and psychological developments of this myth, as well as others. However, at the moment, this is not possible for us, so that this video does not become too long. This myth, Enki and the World Order, centers around Enki, a deity revered for his mastery over the sweet fertilizing waters of the deep, as well as his profound knowledge in crafts, magic, and wisdom. Enki, a pivotal figure in Mesopotamian pantheon, is the offspring of Anu, the sky father hailing from celestial realms, and Namu, the primeval waters. This god, pivotal in Mesopotamian belief systems, was later identified as Ea by the Babylonians and Assyrians. Samuel Noah Kramer was the pioneer in translating this myth, presenting it to the modern world in his work Sumerian Mythology, published in 1961. Following this, in 1969, Benito provided another significant translation for his doctoral thesis at the University of Pennsylvania. The narrative of Enki and the World Order is encapsulated in Sumerian text found on Old Babylonian tablets. These tablets, dating back to the late 3rd millennium, reveal much about the era. For instance, the text highlights the bustling activity of Enki's temple in Eridu. Eridu, also known as Enki's city, is noted for being an ancient settlement, revered as the place where kingship descended to earth from the heavens. The narrative also indicates burgeoning trade relationships, particularly with Persian Gulf countries, positioning Ur as a dominant capital and a key trading hub. Interestingly, the region of Martu is depicted as an ally, contrasting with its portrayal as an adversary in the records of the 3rd dynasty of Ur. The mention of Meluha further underscores Sumer's formidable presence and its alliances in the civilized world of that time. This historical backdrop suggests that the composition likely originated during the prosperous era of the 3rd dynasty of Ur, a period marked by remarkable achievements in various facets of human progress. However, I would like to point out that the composition may have been known in oral form from earlier times. This fact perhaps would shed light upon the last and more obscure part of the poem, or Inanna's complaint to Enki. After having organized the world, Enki gave functions to gods and goddesses, but did not assign the young goddess a specific role in his world order. This has probably been interpreted in Sitchin's theory as Inanna being related to the Enlilite clan, while Enki represents his own clan. The narrative around Eridu, Enki's domain in the southern marshlands of Mesopotamia, reveals its significance as one of the earliest known settlements in the region, as per archaeological evidence. Delving into the ancient mythology, particularly the genesis of Eridu, it becomes evident that this location was pivotal in early Mesopotamian history. It's in Eridu where divine beings descended from the heavens, initiating the tradition of kingship and laying the groundwork for what would become the Mesopotamian state, predating the flood. Eridu's influence extended beyond governance, as it was also the birthplace of the Apkallu, or sages, led by the notable Adapa. These figures, revered as Enki's priests, were instrumental in imparting civilization skills to humanity. Despite the later shift of religious prominence to Nippur, the city of Enlil, Eridu remained a vital witness to the emergence of powers like Babylon and Assyria. It's described in The Genesis of Eridu as the cradle of Sumer's civilized and religious life. Archaeological findings suggest that the marshy southern region, rich in natural resources, was ideally suited for the inception of civilized life around 6000, 5000 BCE. Kurt's 1995 study highlights Eridu's enduring religious significance, tracing a continuous line of temple construction from the early Ubaid Once phase, identifiable by its unique pottery and cultural traits, through to historical times. The evolution of power is traced northwards to Uruk, with the first evidence of writing dating around 3500 BCE, marking the commencement of the Uruk period. This period, defined by technological advancements like writing, the wheel, enhanced metal production, and stone vessel crafting, is also the era of the goddess Inanna and the sky father Anu. Uruk's prominence is further underscored by the construction of vast ceremonial complexes at Iana, dedicated to Anu and Inanna. Given this historical backdrop, and thinking in scholarly and traditional history terms, it's plausible to suggest that Enki and the world order originated during the early Ubaid I or Eridu phase as part of an oral tradition, with its formal inscription occurring later, around the time of Ur's third dynasty. This interpretation, based on the traditional thinking of history and archaeology, is perhaps what we need to emphasize the importance of considering the ancient astronaut theory. If myths are historical accounts of an undeniable truth, as I believe they are, then the mythological text, Enki and the World Order, presents us with a narrative consistent with what the gods did after royalty descended from the heavens and established themselves in Eridu, where Alulim became king and ruled for 28,800 years. The myth relates that Enki, beloved by both An and Enlil, is depicted as a great dragon in Eridu, whose influence extends over both heaven and earth. He is associated with abundance and is a significant figure among the Anunnaki gods, having a special connection to the Abzu and the natural world. The myth continues by describing Enki's roles and capabilities. It tells us how Enki, merely by speaking, can bring prosperity and abundance. His presence and words have the power to impact both the natural world and human society positively. The text also mentions Enki's role in governing time and fate, although some lines are unclear, hinting at his influence over the calendar and possibly agricultural cycles. Furthermore, the text highlights Enki's role in ensuring the safety and well-being of people. It speaks of him turning weapons away from homes and making people safe, although details are again partially lost in unclear lines. The narrative then shifts to Enki praising his own majesty and accomplishments. He speaks of his noble lineage, his significant role among the gods, and his contributions to various aspects of civilization, including arts and crafts. He acknowledges his power and status given to him by higher deities like An and Enlil. After Enki's self-praise, the Anunnaki gods respond with prayers and expressions of admiration, acknowledging his greatness and control over arts, crafts, and decisions. Enki, in a state of delight, continues to extol his virtues and accomplishments. He claims responsibility for agricultural prosperity, mentioning how his commands lead to the construction of sheepfolds and cow pens, and how his presence brings abundance to the earth and heavens. The text concludes with a description of his house and shrine, named with a good name, located in a pure place, likely the Abzu. This place is depicted as idyllic, with fish swimming in pools and birds chirping in their nests, symbolizing the harmony and life that Enki brings to his surroundings. In this point of the text, when comparing different versions, we find a substantial disagreement. In some versions, it states that when Enki approached Earth, he found a great flood of carp. In other versions, it states that upon arriving, Enki observed a great flood, and in others too much flooding, and could also see its green meadows, heaps and mounds piled up under his command. As the narrative unfolds, it paints a picture of Enki, who is held in high esteem by the lords and the people. They gather around him, offering praises and performing rituals in his honor. The Abgul priests and Abrig officials, noted for their esteemed positions, stand in reverence before Enki, recalling the ancient days of yore. Enki, in his majestic domain, the Abzu, is surrounded by the resounding echoes of sacred songs and incantations. His barge, aptly named Crown, also known as the Stag of the Abzu, is a testament to his grandeur. It sails effortlessly, guided by his will, through the vast marshes to his chosen destinations. The oarsmen, synchronizing their strokes to the call of the stroke callers, sing joyous melodies, creating a harmonious and jubilant atmosphere on the river. Nigir Sig, the esteemed captain of the barge, wields a golden scepter, a symbol of Enki's authority as he commands the vessel. As the text progresses, it becomes unclear for a few lines, leaving gaps in the narrative. However, based on the preceding descriptions, one might speculate that these lines could have elaborated on Enki's journey or his interactions with his followers during the voyage. Further on, the text describes Enki's admiration for the green cedars, signaling a deep connection with the natural world. He wishes for the lands of Meluha, Megan, and Dilmun to witness his presence. The narrative suggests a bustling trade, with boats from Dilmun, Megan, and Meluha loaded with timber, gold, and silver, destined for Nibru as offerings to Enlil, the king of all lands. And, yes, you've heard well, Enki sent the gold to be delivered to Enlil in Nibru. Enki's benevolence then extends to those without a city or home as he presents animals to the Martu nomads, showcasing his compassion and generosity. The Anunnaki gods express their affection and admiration for Enki. They extol him as the Lord who controls the great powers, a figure of immense influence spanning heaven and earth. Enki, having received supreme powers in Eridu, a holy and esteemed place, is celebrated and praised. In Eridu, the scene shifts to a more ceremonial atmosphere. The incantation priests and linen-clad priests of Sumer engage in purification rites in the Abzu for Enki. They stand guard in the holy place, ensuring its sanctity. Amidst partial gaps in the text, it is evident that they bring juniper and organize sacred rituals, enhancing the spirituality of the setting. As the narrative continues, Enki is depicted commanding the Stag of the Abzu. The barge itself symbolizes protection and influence, its shade offering solace to the people. The noble captain, a son of Enlil, is shown holding a sacred punt pole, a significant artifact in the Abzu. Here, several lines are missing or unclear, but it's conceivable that these lines detailed further aspects of Enki's leadership and the significance of the Abzu. Enki is depicted journeying through various lands, decreeing fates and bestowing blessings. His presence brings prosperity, not just on earth, but also in heaven, marking him as a great prince whose influence extends far and wide. In the land of Sumer, Enki extols its grandeur, comparing it to a mighty mountain and a celestial entity. This land, radiant with divine glory, is seen as a cradle for gods, kings, and lords. Enki describes Sumer as a place favored by An, the king of gods, and Enlil, the lord of all lands. The great gods, the Anunnaki, reside here, underscoring Sumer's sacredness. Enki's wish for Sumer is one of unending prosperity, with sheepfolds, cattle, and temples reaching the heavens. Turning his gaze to Urim, Enki lauds the city as a bastion of abundance and strength. He compares it to a sturdy bull and a forest of cypresses, highlighting its resilience and protective nature. Enki's blessings for Urim include great recognition from Enlil, solidifying its esteemed status. In the land of Meluha, Enki's words paint a picture of natural wealth and beauty. He speaks of magnificent trees and reeds, envisioning furniture and weapons derived from these resources. Enki imagines this land filled with bellowing bulls, peacocks, and abundant precious metals, symbolizing prosperity. However, parts of his decree for Meluha are lost, leaving room for speculation about the full extent of his blessings. Enki's actions in the land of Dilmun are those of cleansing and appointing guardians, indicating his role in maintaining the balance and order of these places. He enriches the land with fish and dates, illustrating his connection to both the earth and the sea. The narrative also touches upon political conquests, with the destruction of enemy cities and the offering of treasures to Enlil in Nibru. To the Martu nomads, Enki presents animals, showing his benevolence towards wanderers and those without a city. A vivid scene is painted of Enki by the Euphrates, where his actions are likened to a rampant bull. His virility is symbolized by the act of filling the Tigris with water, a metaphor for life and fertility. The Tigris, personified, rejoices in this act, bringing nourishment and prosperity to the people and temples. Enki appoints Enbelulu to oversee the waters of the Tigris and Euphrates, indicating a careful management of these life-sustaining rivers. The marshlands are blessed by Enki with diverse fish and reeds, though some details of his actions are lost to time. The narrative continues with Enki establishing a shrine in the sea, a place of intricate design and fearsome splendor, revered and feared even by gods. This shrine stands as a testament to Enki's might and mystery. Enki's generosity is further depicted as he fills the Ikur, the house of Enlil, with goods. This act pleases Enlil and brings gladness to Nibru. In charge of the vast sea, Enki places Nanshi, who governs the high waters and the waves, symbolizing the control over natural forces. Enki's influence extends to the weather, as he appoints Ishkur to manage the storms and rains, crucial for agricultural prosperity. The myth unfolds with Enki, organizing the essentials of agriculture. He arranges plows, yokes, and teams, bestowing upon the people horned oxen that follow their tools. Enki is depicted opening up the holy furrows, a metaphor for initiating the process of cultivation and ensuring the growth of barley in the fields. He entrusts these crucial tasks to Enkimdu, a deity associated with farming, reflecting the importance of agriculture in sustaining civilization. Enki then calls upon the cultivated fields, blessing them with bountiful harvests. He brings forth chickpeas, lentils, and various types of barley, accumulating them in large stockpiles. The imagery of heaped grains symbolizes prosperity and abundance. Enki, with Enlil's aid, enhances the people's well-being, illustrating the collaborative nature of the gods in caring for humanity. He appoints Ezana, a goddess associated with grain and fertility, underscoring the divine guardianship over agriculture. The narrative progresses with Enki organizing tools for construction and crafting. He is shown fixing a string to the hoe and organizing brick molds, activities that symbolize the foundations of building and craftsmanship. Enki appoints Kula, a deity connected with building materials, to oversee these endeavors. Kola's role highlights the sacredness of construction and the importance of creating stable, enduring structures. Enki then lays the foundations for buildings, coordinating their construction with precision and sanctity. He entrusts these tasks to Mushdama, a master builder associated with Enlil. Mushdama's expertise ensures that the buildings are structurally sound and aesthetically pleasing, reaching towards the heavens like a rainbow. In the upland plains, Enki raises a holy crown and adorns the landscape with lapis lazuli, beautifying the environment with greenery and multiplying the animals. He appoints Shakan, a heroic figure, to oversee this domain. Shakan, symbolizing strength and leadership, is tasked with nurturing the countryside's natural abundance. Enki then turns his attention to the sheepfolds and cow pens, ensuring their cleanliness and abundance. He bestows luxury upon the gods' dining places, illustrating the connection between earthly prosperity and divine satisfaction. Dumuzid Ushumgal Ana, associated with fertility and agricultural wealth, is placed in charge of these areas. Continuing his acts of creation and organization, Enki fills the Ikur, the house of Enlil, with wealth, bringing joy to Enlil and Nibru. He demarcates borders and establishes boundaries, showing his role in maintaining order in the world. Enki appoints Utu, the sun god, as the overseer of heaven and earth, symbolizing the spread of light, justice, and clarity. In the realm of craftsmanship and women's work, Enki perfects the task of spinning and weaving. He places Utu in charge of these tasks. The myth then shifts to Inanna, who feels neglected in the distribution of powers and responsibilities. She approaches Enki, expressing her grievances about being treated differently and questioning her role among the gods. Enki responds to Inanna, detailing the various powers and responsibilities he has bestowed upon her. He describes how he has enhanced her influence in various aspects of life, from women's work to the complexities of war and peace. Enki emphasizes Inanna's unique role in both creating and destroying, in bringing beauty and sowing chaos. However, parts of Enki's response to Inanna are lost, leaving gaps in our understanding of the full extent of her powers and roles. The text ends with a declaration of praise for Father Enki, acknowledging his pivotal role in shaping the world and the destinies of gods and humans alike. Enki's role in shaping the world is a testament to his strategic vision and organizational prowess. He deftly assigned responsibilities to various deities, ensuring a system where production and outcomes were systematically managed. This approach wasn't just about generating material wealth, it was about creating a harmonious and prosperous society. The brilliance of Enki's methodology lies not in the creation of new resources, but in the ingenious system he devised. He established a cooperative framework where deities worked in unison, with Enki meticulously monitoring the outcomes. This was a shift from mere production to strategic management, where the focus was on efficiency and harmony rather than physical labor. One of the key aspects of Enki's administration was the appointment of the sun god Utu as the central overseer. Utu, symbolizing the all-seeing eye of justice, was tasked with ensuring clear boundaries and roles, preventing any overlaps or conflicts. This was a move towards efficient and streamlined governance. The narrative in Enki and the World Order highlights the themes of collaboration, empowerment, and mutual effort. It underscores Enki's actions as guided by the collective will of the great gods, showcasing his leadership without a hint of inferiority. His self-acclaim is a reflection of his confidence and achievements. Furthermore, Enki's benevolence towards humanity is a crucial aspect of the myth. The text portrays an idealized vision of life, mirroring the Sumerian ethos of a well-ordered, responsible society aimed at the common good. This ancient wisdom, advocating for a life of positive intent and active engagement, is exemplified by Enki's love and care for humankind. It's a philosophy that celebrates creativity, joy, and inspiration in all aspects of life, echoing the Sumerian values embodied by Enki and later by Inanna. Concluding with the myth's own words, "Praise be to Father Enki," the text encapsulates the enduring legacy of Enki's vision, a blueprint for a harmonious and prosperous existence. Next, we will observe the text itself, the real Mesopotamian tablet. At the moment, I draw attention to something that I usually include in my written scripts during my interviews in Portuguese, and other moments when I tend to speak more openly on the subject. And I intend to do this in English as well. When we look beyond Zecharia Sitchin's theory, we need to be open to other observations. Sitchin informs us that Inanna is the daughter of Nannar-Sin, who is the god of the moon, the son of Enlil. Thus, Inanna is Enlil's granddaughter and belongs to his clan. However, in other texts, scholars explain to us that Inanna appears as the direct daughter of Anu, and in other texts as the daughter of Enki. Therefore, as we delve beyond Sitchin's theory and get to know the actual texts, it is necessary to observe them with an open mind. Perhaps the dispute between Inanna and Marduk is not exactly a conflict between the clans of Enki and Enlil. In a short text that we will study in the future, Inanna and Enki, Inanna has plans to expand her dominions, and in that text, Inanna is referred to as the daughter of Enki. Now let's observe the text, Enki and the Order in the World, available on the electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature on the internet. Grandiloquent Lord of heaven and earth, self-reliant, Father Enki, engendered by a bull, begotten by a wild bull, cherished by Enlil, the great mountain, beloved by Holy An, king, mesh tree planted in the Abzu, rising over all lands, great dragon who stands in Eridu, whose shadow covers heaven and earth, a grove of vines extending over the land, Enki, lord of plenty of the Anunnaki gods, Nudimud, mighty one of the Ikur, strong one of heaven and earth. Your great house is founded in the Abzu, the great mooring post of heaven and earth. Enki, from whom a single glance is enough to unsettle the heart of the mountains. Wherever bison are born, where stags are born, where ibex are born, where wild goats are born, in meadows, in hollows in the heart of the hills, in green. Unvisited by man, you have fixed your gaze on the heart of the land as on split reeds, counting the days and putting the months in their houses so as to complete the years and to submit the completed years to the assembly for a decision, taking decisions to regularize the days. Father Enki, you are the king of the assembled people. You have only to open your mouth for everything to multiply and for plenty to be established. Your branches, green with their fruit, do honor to the gods. In its forests is like a fleecy garment. Good sheep and good lambs do honor to, when the prepared fields will accumulate stockpiles and stacks. There is oil, there is milk, produced by the sheepfold and cowpen. The shepherd sweetly sings his rustic song. The cowherd spends the day rocking his churns. Their products would do honor to the late lunches in the gods' great dining hall. Your word fills the young man's heart with vigor, so that like a thick-horned bull, he butts about in the courtyard. Your word bestows loveliness on the young woman's head, so that the people in their settled cities gaze at her in wonder. 2 lines unclear. Enlil, the great mountain, has commissioned you to gladden the hearts of lords and rulers and wish them well. Enki, Lord of prosperity, Lord of wisdom, Lord, the beloved of An, the ornament of Eridu, who establish commands and decisions, who well understands the decreeing of fates. You close up the days, and make the months enter their houses. You bring down, you have reached their number. You make the people dwell in their dwelling places. You make them follow their herdsmen. 2 lines unclear. You turn weapons away from their houses. You make the people safe in their dwellings. When Father Enki goes forth to the inseminated people, good seed will come forth. When Nudimud goes forth to the good pregnant ewes, good lambs will be born. When he goes forth to the fecund cows, good calves will be born. When he goes forth to the good pregnant goats, good kids will be born. If you go forth to the cultivated fields, to the good germinating fields, stockpiles and stacks can be accumulated on the high plain. If you go forth to the parched areas of the land, 2 lines missing or unclear. Enki, the king of the Abzu, rejoicing in great splendor, justly praises himself. My father, the king of heaven and earth, made me famous in heaven and earth. My elder brother, the king of all the lands, gathered up all the divine powers and placed them in my hand. I brought the arts and crafts from the Ikur, the house of Enlil, to my Abzu in Eridu. I am the good seaman, begotten by a wild bull. I am the firstborn of An. I am a great storm rising over the great earth. I am the great lord of the land. I am the principal among all rulers, the father of all the foreign lands. I am the big brother of the gods. I bring prosperity to perfection. I am the seal keeper of heaven and earth. I am the wisdom and understanding of all the foreign lands. Within the king on An's dais, I oversee justice. With Enlil, looking out over the lands, I decree good destinies. He has placed in my hands the decreeing of fates in the place where the sun rises. I am cherished by Nintur. I am named with a good name by Ninhusag. I am the leader of the Anunnaki gods. I was born as the firstborn son of Holy An. After the Lord had proclaimed his greatness, after the great prince had eulogized himself, the Anunnaki gods stood there in prayer and supplication. Praise be to Enki, the much-praised Lord who controls all the arts and crafts, who takes decisions. In a state of high delight, Enki, the king of the Abzu, rejoicing in great splendor, again justly praises himself. I am the Lord. I am one whose word is reliable. I am one who excels in everything. At my command, sheepfolds have been built, cowpens have been fenced off. When I approach heaven, a rain of abundance rains from heaven. When I approach earth, there is a high carp flood. When I approach the green meadows, at my word, stockpiles and stacks are accumulated. I have built my house, a shrine in a pure place, and named it with a good name. I have built my Abzu, a shrine in, and decreed a good fate for it. The shade of my house extends over the pool. By my house the Suhur carp dart among the honey plants, and the Estub carp wave their tails among the small Gizi reeds. The small birds chirp in their nests. The lords pay heed. To me, I am Enki. They stand before me, praising me. The Abgal priests and Abrig officials who stand before me. Distant days. The Enkum and Ninkum officiants organize. They purify the river for me. They, the interior of the shrine for me. In my Abzu, sacred songs and incantations resound for me. My barge crown, the stag of the Abzu, transports me there most delightfully. It glides swiftly for me through the great marshes to wherever I have decided. It is obedient to me. The stroke collars make the oars pull in perfect unison. They sing for me pleasant songs, creating a cheerful mood on the river. Nijir Sig, the captain of my barge, holds the golden scepter for me. I am Enki. He is in command of my boat, Stag of the Abzu. I am the Lord. I will travel. I am Enki. I will go forth into my land. I, the Lord who determines the fates. 4 lines unclear. I will admire its green cedars. Let the lands of Meluha, Magan, and Dilmun look upon me, upon Enki. Let the Dilmun boats be loaded with timber. Let the Magan boats be loaded sky high. Let the Majilam boats of Meluha transport gold and silver, and bring them to Nibru for Enlil, king of all the lands. He presented animals to those who have no city, to those who have no houses, to the Martu nomads. The Anunnaki gods address affectionately the great prince who has traveled in his land. Lord who rides upon the great powers, the pure powers, who controls the great powers, the numberless powers, foremost in all the breadth of heaven and earth, who received the supreme powers in Eridu, the holy place, the most esteemed place, Enki, Lord of heaven and earth, praise. All the lords and rulers, the incantation priests of Eridu and the linen-clad priests of Sumer, perform the purification rites of the Abzu for the great prince who has traveled in his land. For Father Enki they stand guard in the holy place, the most esteemed place. They, the chambers. They, the emplacements. They purify the great shrine of the Abzu. They bring there the tall juniper, the pure plant. They organize the holy. in the great watercourse of Enki. Skillfully, they build the main stairway of Eridu on the good key. They prepare the sacred Uzga shrine, where they utter endless prayers. 7 lines fragmentary or unclear. For Enki. Squabbling together, and the Suhurmash carp dart among the honey plants, again fighting amongst themselves for the great prince. The Eshtub carp wave their tails among the small Gizi reeds. The Lord, the great ruler of the Abzu, issues instructions on board the stag of the Abzu, the great emblem erected in the Abzu, providing protection, its shade extending over the whole land and refreshing the people, the pillar and pole planted in the marsh, rising high over all the foreign lands. The noble captain of the lands, the son of Enlil, holds in his hand the sacred punt pole, a mesh tree ornamented in the Abzu which received the supreme powers in Eridu, the holy place, the most esteemed place. The hero proudly lifts his head towards the Abzu. 6 lines missing or unclear. Sirsir, the boatmen of the barge, the boat for the Lord. Nigir Sig, the captain of the barge, holds the holy scepter for the Lord. The 50 Lahama deities of the subterranean waters speak affectionately to him, the stroke callers, like heavenly gam-gam birds. The intrepid king, Father Enki, in the land. Prosperity was made to burgeon in heaven and on earth for the great prince who travels in the land. Enki decreed its fate. Sumer, great mountain, land of heaven and earth, trailing glory, bestowing powers on the people from sunrise to sunset. Your powers are superior powers, untouchable, and your heart is complex and inscrutable. Like heaven itself, your just matrix, in which gods too can be born, is beyond reach. Giving birth to kings who put on the good diadem, giving birth to lords who wear the crown on their heads, your Lord, the honored Lord, sits within the king on An's dais. Your king, the great mountain, Father Enlil, the father of all the lands, has blocked you impenetrably, like a cedar tree. The Anunnaki, the great gods, have taken up dwellings in your midst, and consume their food in your Jiguna shrines among the unique and exceptional trees. Household Sumer, may your sheepfolds be built and your cattle multiply. May your Giguna touch the skies. May your good temples reach up to heaven. May the Anunnaki determine the destinies in your midst. Then he proceeded to the sanctuary of Urim. Enki, lord of the Abzu, decreed its fate. City which possesses all that is fitting, bathed by water. Sturdy bull, altar of abundance that strides across the mountains, rising like the hills. Forest of Hashur cypresses with broad shade, self-confident. May your perfect powers be well directed. The great mountain Enlil has pronounced your name great in heaven and on earth. City whose fate Enki has decreed, sanctuary of Urim, you shall rise high to heaven. Then he proceeded to the land of Meluha. Enki, lord of the Abzu, decreed its fate. Black land, may your trees be great trees, may your forests be forests of highland mess trees. Chairs made from them will grace royal palaces. May your reeds be great reeds, may they, heroes shall, them on the battlefield as weapons. May your bulls be great bulls, may they be bulls of the mountains. May their bellowing be the bellowing of wild bulls of the mountains. The great powers of the gods shall be made perfect for you. May the francolins of the mountains wear cornelian beards. May your birds all be peacocks. May their cries grace royal palaces. May all your silver be gold. May all your copper be tin bronze. Land, may all you possess be plentiful. May your people, may your men go forth like bulls against their fellow men. 2 lines unclear. He cleansed and purified the land of Dilmun. He placed Ninsikila in charge of it. He gave, for the fish spawn, ate its fish, bestowed palms on the cultivated land, ate its dates, Elam and Marhashi. To devour. The king endowed with strength by Enlil destroyed their houses, demolished their walls. He brought their silver and lapis lazuli, their treasure, to Enlil, king of all the lands, in Nibru. Enki presented animals to those who have no city, who have no houses, to the Martu nomads. After he had turned his gaze from there, after Father Enki had lifted his eyes across the Euphrates, he stood up full of lust like a rampant bull, lifted his penis, ejaculated, and filled the Tigris with flowing water. He was like a wild cow mooing for its young in the wild grass, its scorpion-infested cow pen. The Tigris, at his side, like a rampant bull. By lifting his penis, he brought a bridal gift. The Tigris rejoiced in its heart like a great wild bull when it was born. It brought water, flowing water indeed. Its wine will be sweet. It brought barley, mottled barley indeed. The people will eat it. It filled the Ekur, the house of Enlil, with all sorts of things. Enlil was delighted with Enki, and Nibru was glad. The Lord put on the diadem as a sign of lordship. He put on the good crown as a sign of kingship, touching the ground on his left side. Plenty came forth out of the earth for him. Enki, the lord of the destinies, Enki, the king of the Abzu, placed in charge of all this him who holds a scepter in his right hand, him who with glorious mouth submits to verification the devouring force of the Tigris and Euphrates, while prosperity pours forth from the palace like oil, and Bilulu, the inspector of waterways. He called the marshes and gave them the various species of carp. He spoke to the reed beds and bestowed on them the old and new growths of reeds. 2 lines missing. He issued a challenge. Enki placed in charge of all this him from whose net no fish escapes, him from whose trap no living thing escapes, him from whose bird net no bird escapes, 1 line unclear. Who loves fish? The Lord established a shrine, a holy shrine, whose interior is elaborately constructed. He established a shrine in the sea, a holy shrine, whose interior is elaborately constructed. The shrine, whose interior is a tangled thread, is beyond understanding. The shrine's emplacement is situated by the constellation the Field. The holy upper shrine's emplacement faces towards the Chariot constellation. Its terrifying sea is a rising wave. Its splendor is fearsome. The Anunnaki gods dare not approach it. To refresh their hearts, the palace rejoices. The Anunnaki stand by with prayers and supplications. They set up a great altar for Enki in the Ingura, for the Lord. The great prince, the pelican of the sea. 1 line unclear. He filled the Ekur, the house of Enlil, with goods of all sorts. Enlil was delighted with Enki, and Nibru was glad. Enki placed in charge of all this, over the wide extent of the sea, her who sets sail. In the holy shrine, who induces sexual intercourse. Who over the enormous high flood of the subterranean waters, the terrifying waves, the inundation of the sea, who comes forth from the mistress of Sarara, Nanshe. He called to the rain of the heavens, as floating clouds, he made, rising at the horizon, he turned the mounds into fields. Enki placed in charge of all this him who rides on the great storms, who attacks with lightning bolts, the holy bar which blocks the entrance to the interior of heaven, the son of An, the canal inspector of heaven and earth, Ishkur, the bringer of plenty, the son of An. He organized plows, yokes, and teams. The great prince Enki bestowed the horned oxen that follow the tools. He opened up the holy furrows and made the barley grow on the cultivated fields. Enki placed in charge of them the Lord who wears the diadem, the ornament of the high plain, him of the implements, the farmer of Enlil, Enkimdu, responsible for ditches and dikes. The Lord called the cultivated fields and bestowed on them mottled barley. Enki made chickpeas, lentils, and grow. He heaped up into piles the early mottled and Inuha varieties of barley. Enki multiplied the stockpiles and stacks, and with Enlil's help, he enhanced the people's prosperity. Enki placed in charge of all this her whose head and body are dappled, whose face is covered in syrup, the mistress who causes sexual intercourse, the power of the land, the life of the black-headed, Ezina, the good bread of the whole world. The great prince fixed a string to the hoe and organized brick molds. He penetrated the like precious oil. Enki placed in charge of them him whose sharp-bladed hoe is a corpse-devouring snake whose brick mold in place is a tidy stack of hulled grain for the ewes, Kulla, who bricks in the land. He tied down the strings and coordinated them with the foundations, and with the power of the assembly, he planned a house and performed the purification rituals. The great prince put down the foundations and laid the bricks. Enki placed in charge of all this him whose foundations once laid do not sag, whose good houses once built do not collapse, whose vaults reach up into the heart of the heavens like a rainbow. Mushtama, Enlil's master builder. He raised a holy crown over the upland plain. He fastened a lapis lazuli beard to the high plain and made it wear a lapis lazuli headdress. He made this good place perfect with greenery in abundance. He multiplied the animals of the high plain to an appropriate degree. He multiplied the ibex and wild goats of the pastures and made them copulate. Enki placed in charge of them the hero who is the crown of the high plain, who is the king of the countryside, the great lion of the high plain, the muscular, the hefty, the burly strength of Enlil, Shakkan, the king of the hills. He built the sheepfolds, carried out their cleaning, made the cow pens, bestowed on them the best fat and cream, and brought luxury to the gods' dining places. He made the plain, created for greenery, achieve prosperity. Enki placed in charge of all this the king, the good provider of Eanna, the friend of An, the beloved son-in-law of the youth Suin, the holy spouse of Inanna the mistress, the lady of the great powers who allows sexual intercourse in the open squares of Kulaba, Dumuzid Ushumgal Anna, the friend of An. He filled the Ikur, the house of Enlil, with possessions. Enlil was delighted with Enki, and Nibru was glad. He demarcated borders and fixed boundaries. For the Anunnaki gods, Enki situated dwellings in cities and disposed agricultural land into fields. Enki placed in charge of the whole of heaven and earth the hero, the bull who comes out of the Hasher forest bellowing truculently, the youth Utu, the bull standing triumphantly, audaciously, majestically, the father of the great city, an expression for the underworld, the great herald in the east of Holy An, the judge who searches out verdicts for the gods, with a lapis lazuli beard, rising from the horizon into the holy heavens, Utu, the son born by Ningal. He picked out the tow from the fibers and set up the loom. Enki greatly perfected the task of women, for Enki the people, in garments. Enki placed in charge of them the honor of the palace, the dignity of the king, Utu, the conscientious woman, the silent one. Then, alone lacking any functions, the great woman of heaven, Inanna, lacking any functions. Inanna came in to see her father Enki in his house, weeping to him and making her complaint to him. Enlil left it in your hands to confirm the functions of the Anunnaki, the great gods. Why did you treat me, the woman, in an exceptional manner? I am holy Inanna. Where are my functions? Aruru, Enlil's sister Nintur, the lady of giving birth, is to get the holy birth bricks as her prerogative. She is to carry off the lancet for umbilical cords, the special sand and leeks. She is to get the Silagara bowl of translucent lapis lazuli, in which to place the afterbirth. She is to carry off the holy consecrated Allah vessel. She is to be the midwife of the land. The birthing of kings and lords is to be in her hands. My illustrious sister, holy Ninisina, is to get the jewelry of Suba stones. She is to be the mistress of heaven. She is to stand beside An and speak to him whenever she desires. My illustrious sister, Holy Ninmug, is to get the golden chisel and the silver burin. She is to carry off her big flint Antasura blade. She is to be the metal worker of the land. The fitting of the good diadem when a king is born and the crowning with the crown when a lord is born are to be in her hands. My illustrious sister, Holy Nisaba, is to get the measuring reed. The lapis lazuli measuring tape is to hang over her arm. She is to proclaim all the great powers. She is to demarcate boundaries and mark borders. She is to be the scribe of the land. The planning of the gods' meals is to be in her hands. Nanshe, the august lady, who rests her feet on the holy pelican, is to be the fisheries inspector of the sea. She is to be responsible for accepting delectable fish and delicious birds from there to go to Nibru for her father Enlil. But why did you treat me, the woman, in an exceptional manner? I am holy Inanna, where are my functions? Enki answered his daughter, Holy Inanna, how have I disparaged you? Goddess, how have I disparaged you? How can I enhance you? Maiden Inanna, how have I disparaged you? How can I enhance you? I made you speak as a woman with pleasant voice. I made you go forth. I covered with a garment. I made you exchange its right side and its left side. I clothed you in garments of women's power. I put women's speech in your mouth. I placed in your hands the spindle and the hairpin. To you, women's adornment. I settled on you the staff and the crook, with the shepherd's stick beside them. Maiden Inanna, how have I disparaged you? How can I enhance you? Amongst the ominous occurrences in the hurly-burly of battle, I shall make you speak vivifying words. And in its midst, although you are not an Arabu bird, a bird of ill omen, I shall make you speak ill-omened words also. I made you tangle straight threads. Maiden Inanna, I made you straighten out tangled threads. I made you put on garments. I made you dress in linen. I made you pick out the tow from the fibers. I made you spin with the spindle. I made you color tufted cloth with colored threads. Inanna, you heap up human heads like piles of dust. You sow heads like seed. Inanna, you destroy what should not be destroyed. You create what should not be created. You remove the cover from the Shem drum of lamentations, Maiden Inanna, while shutting up the Tiji and Adab instruments in their homes. You never grow weary with admirers looking at you. Maiden Inanna, you know nothing of tying the ropes on deep wells. But now, the heart has overflowed, the land is restored. Enlil's heart has overflowed, the land is restored. In his overflowing heart of mankind. 4 lines unclear. Lapis lazuli headdress is your prerogative. Is your prerogative. Is your prerogative. Is your prerogative. 10 lines unclear. Praise be to Father Enki. If you liked the video, please hit the like button and share it with your friends and family who might be interested in the topic. Consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss our upcoming videos. See you in the next video.